that under the there's a presentation from Project Search. That's our first item. And that's Brian Gresco.
Yes. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Good evening, everyone. uh, should I just roll into it, Stacy?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. And I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted to check about time parameters. How much time do you think I would need to go through everything? I can kind of slow walk it, or I can kind of move it along at any pace. And I know that I presented here a couple months ago, several months ago. I can certainly do like a refresher, kind of go through everything again just to see what the program is, give some updates, and field questions if that makes sense for everyone.
That sounds good.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so I'm gonna share the presentation. Hold on. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep. Yes.
All right, great. All right, so Project Search, we'll go through what Project Search is. Hold on. Here we go. So I always like to start before I do any presentations and just introduce my team because first and foremost, I'm a member of the Employment Day Services unit with DDS. I always like to just highlight our team because sometimes people don't even know we exist. So it's just good to kind of remind people that we are a resource for anyone who's seeking any kind of employment. Any seeking any kind of information about employment services or anything like that, we are the go-to folks. So if you're ever in a bind or you have questions about employment options or services, we can certainly help. We can help with individuals. In cases, we can talk more about things kind of at a systemic level. We can have conversations about specific services if you'd like. We are available to help. We are a resource. In our unit, I start with our director, Amber Carter. She is our guiding light in terms of how we proceed. And aside from her, there's Trevor Rogers. He's assigned to Central Office. Daryl Spears, he's out of the North region, where you folks are. Catherine Kate DiStefano, she is out of the West region, and I serve out of the South region. We are kind of carved out to certain regions, but we also oversee certain projects and services. So you might see a situation where, like, for example, where I serve as the statewide coordinator for Project Search, which is why you wouldn't have Daryl here talking, because there's a specific service that we're going to be addressing. So just keep that in mind. We are very accessible. I'll put it that way. So feel free to reach out at any time. But moving on to Project Search, uh, one thing that I like to note about Project Search is a lot of the services that we offer at DDS, they're DDS waiverable services. So like they're kind of in-house. That gives us a lot of discretion in terms of how the programs are rolled out. We adhere to the waivers, but they are, DDS services. Project Search is a little different. It is a national program. It's in 48 states. I'll backtrack a little bit and say it's actually an international program because it's in 10 countries beyond our borders as well. So there's over 700 programs. It's been around since 1996. They do have their own curriculum that they adhere to. And they have what they call Project Search National, which is kind of their binding entity that oversees Project Search everywhere. So I serve as a liaison to the Project Search National team. They have someone assigned to Connecticut. I work in cohesion with them. In order to assist the Project Search programs in Connecticut. Project Search is really a partnership model, which basically means that there's several different entities that have to come together in order for this to work. First and foremost, you have um, the individual in the family, and they're part of the team. But we also have a host business. Typically, the host businesses that suit best for project search are very large businesses. So with multiple departments, they like to have businesses that have over 300 staff. So these are very robust and large businesses, typically hospitals, universities, those kinds of settings tend to really fit well with project search. Um, Adult Disability Services Provider is another partner. So how that works in Connecticut is a lot of with the exception of one of the programs, the DDS service providers have the license for project search, and they also provide the like the technical assistance, the service assistance to the individuals while they're on the host site. So they'll supply a special ed teacher and a skills instructor on site. So that's their part of the equation. Education system, we always put this in here while in Connecticut. Um, School districts are they're starting to awaken to project search. It's been slow going, but we do have a number of like school districts that sit on our steering committees, things like that, just to stay apprised of what's going on with project search. Nationally, most referrals come from school districts. Second, from VR agencies, and very small bandwidth is DD agency referrals. In Connecticut, we're inverse. In Connecticut, the vast majority of referrals come from DDS. We do have one program that's licensed through Norwalk Public Schools, and they're like the primary referral source for that program. But by and large, most of the referrals are at this time are coming from DDS. And then we have different funders. So that would be us, DDS. I guess that's the best way to put it. So we're the primary referral source, but also the primary funding source for the programs. Um, I'll just also add on the bottom note, it says that the program takes place completely at the host business site. So these are programs that you're not reporting to uh, the provider agency, spending time there, and then spending some portion of the day at the business. You're there, the interns report to the business. They'll meet with their support staff in the morning. They'll go over curriculum, plan out their day, and then they're out into their own department doing their internship. They come back at the end of the day just for wrap up, but the vast majority of the day they're out doing internship activities. So they are fully immersed in that business site. It is a 5 day a week program, and it does follow school calendar. Remember, I had mentioned that nationally, most referrals come from school districts. That's because this was a program that's really was built with the idea that it would serve as kind of like a transition program. So 18 to 22-year-old students who are in transition programming, this was kind of slots in that way. And for that reason, when they built out this program, they felt it best to follow a school calendar. So starting, around Labor Day, wrapping up around Memorial Day, maybe a little bit after. But that's really what the model kind of carved out to be. Um, the program is it's not one 9 month long internship. It's actually carved out into 3 10-week internships. So that's why it's so important to have different departments. And because it gives the interns options to explore different opportunities. So like in a hospital, they might be down in linens for one internship. They might be working in radiology for another internship. We have maternity. A lot of the hospitals have maternity internship options, maintenance. We have folks that have worked in like with electronic health records. It's a pretty interesting program, and depending on the pliability of the the host business and the provider, like they can get really creative in terms of options for the individuals. And obviously that the ultimate goal is that we're looking for employment, competitive integrated employment after upon graduation. They hold deployment planning meetings regularly to assess progress, touch base, plan for the subsequent internship rotations, and obviously graduation. Um, and this is all guided by the interns' like experience, strengths, interests, and skills. So we find that when they go through these different internships, they find as much as what they're not interested in as what they are interested in. They might go in and say, "Oh, I think I really want to do this," and then they walk out of that internship like, "Yeah, actually, I don't." So that in itself is also really good information for them to dig through. A typical day, like I think I mentioned, typically like arriving about around 9 o'clock. They do employability skills class, but then they're out into their internships. An interesting component about the program too is that there's not like clustering. That's something that is opposite to what the model is. So you don't have several interns in one department doing the same thing. They're interspersed around. So if somebody's in a department having their internship, that's their department and internship for that rotation. The expectation is that they spend all their time with their cohort. And I'm not saying their cohort with the projects or internship. I'm saying their cohort in with the colleagues that are in that department. So they'll eat lunch with the folks that they're in the department with, and they're really promoted to be as independent as possible. Granted, having those support staff there to interject themselves as needed. The concept really is that fading process, so that by the end of the year, um, the supporting staff have really pulled back as much as possible. Um, and I had mentioned they have a curriculum. The way I describe Project Search is it's kind of like a franchise. It's like a McDonald's. If you go to McDonald's, you order Big Mac, you know what you're going to get because they've patented the process and they've been able to repeat it on a grand scale. Project Search is the same thing. They have a very well vetted curriculum. And you can see all the different things that it promotes, but every program adheres to the same curriculum. They have the same database that they can pull from. They have the same resources. There's oversight from the national team that really drills down to make sure that things are happening on a consistent basis for all the programs across the country. Um, and you can just see some examples of internships: food service, environmental. I think I mentioned maternity, emergency room, PACU, ambulatory. A lot of patient transport is a big um, um, department that gets used quite a bit. Radiology department, dietary facilities, linen mailroom. If the list goes on and on. Um, when we look at just kind of like an annual timeline. So for a provider agency, they start recruiting now, actually. So info sessions are starting to pop up. So they really start the recruitment process early, and by December, January, February, they're really full bore in terms of recruitment, because since I'll go through it, but they start doing skills assessment days. So if somebody's interested in Project Search, they'll apply to a specific program. That program will respond, and they'll invite them to a skills assessment day. Skills assessment days aren't really like binary, like thumbs up or thumbs down, but what they do is it provides the licensee, the provider agency, an opportunity just to see where the intern or the prospective intern is, and so that they can kind of gear um, how they're going to proceed with them. There might be feedback that might need to develop more skills before they um, can move into the program, but it also might be it gives them an opportunity, the provider, to start thinking ahead, saying this individual might profile well for this department or that department or this opportunity. So it's a really good chance to get to know the interns. Um, and then, late August to September, the programs start. There's a month-long orientation, so there's really triaging into the actual business because interestingly enough, a lot of things that people don't consider is that when you're working or anyone who steps foot either at a working capacity or an internship capacity, a lot of hospitals have um, mandates in terms of inoculations or trainings and things like that. So that is something that kind of worked its way through during the summer before they onboard into the program. But then also that first month they're getting trained basically this as close to as any other new employee into that business as possible. So they're getting a big swath of just same training that other employees would get. Um, and then again, June program graduations, job placement, ongoing support. Um, kind of, I don't like this slide, so but I'll just say it's designed for younger adults. You don't have to be a DDS. It's not a DDS program. The way that, in terms of eligibility, if you have a disability, you can be considered for Project Search. Nationally, they serve a lot of autism population. That's kind of beyond our DDS orbit. Um, they can certainly it's certainly appropriate for populations beyond DDS. We're just working through different funding options at this time. But if you are receiving services from DDS and are interested in Project Search, it's certainly worth the discussion. And I had mentioned again, just there's no cutoff age-wise, but because it's designed for a younger cohort, that tends to be who kind of attracts to that program. And the program's not lawn dependent either, although typically folks that profile for internships at Project Search tend to be your lawn 1, 2, 3s. Um, there we go. So again, Project Search, 730 programs of 48 states. Nationally, they have 73% of interns find employment upon completion of their internship, which I don't need to tell this crowd. Those are outstanding numbers. Project Search considers successful placement. They have different standards than just competitive integrated employment. They're looking also for a minimum of 16 hours a week or more of competitive integrated employment. So their goal is they're really tailoring their programs to folks who want to work at least 16 hours a week. Um, the good news is that the numbers from Connecticut are actually better than the numbers nationally. We have an 89% graduation rate. And this actually, it's 2017. It's actually 2015. So from 2015 to 2023, these numbers actually are pretty consistent. I pulled data a little bit farther back before this meeting, and they actually stayed pretty consistent and 79.8 employment rate. So we're actually outpacing the national average. So this is a pretty interesting program for individuals who are interested in employment. Uh, and you can just see also, I just put an asterisk that they interns in Connecticut, I'd mentioned that 16 hours. We're looking about 21 hours of work a week. 13.97 an hour. I'll add the caveat that that goes back to when uh, minimum wage was below that. So um, I've been pulling data the last year, and it's much more than the 13.97. I don't have the numbers from this past year. The way that they kind of do the way they look at the data, they won't start collecting the data from the 23-24 year until probably March or April of next year. Um, Yeah. And how do you get involved with Project Search? Again, DDS is the main referral source in Connecticut. School districts can refer transition age students to Project Search. That would be like through a PPT process. Self-pay is an option. Um, and I'll just say that most of the programs serve adult and student age interns. They're considered what they call hybrid programs, so that they could facilitate either population, adult or school aged. We have 16 programs in Connecticut. We've been growing pretty quickly. We had about eight, 2.5 years ago. We're at 16 now. We had three new programs last year. Masonic Care. I'm sorry, that's this year. We had let me see who was new last year. Actually, it's on the next slide. But we have 16 programs. These are the three programs that were last year: Danbury Hospital, Stanford Hospital, Stratford YMCA, which actually just moved to the Milford YMCA. They're kind of toggling back and forth between facilities, in the Hospital of Central Connecticut in New Britain. Programs that just started this year. We have Waterbury Hospital. We have Bacchus Hospital down in Norwich, and Masonic Care, which is a rehabilitation site um, down in Wallingford. So these are three new programs. We actually have two new programs scheduled to kick off next year. We're targeting kind of like they're 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 targeted to be one in kind of like the lower Connecticut Valley, like Derby and Sonia area, and one in New Haven proper. Um, and just a full disclosure that in terms of like Connecticut, when I look at it, if you cut the Connecticut down the middle with I-91, there's a ton of representation west. Once you cross over 91 east, we have one program, which is that Bacchus Hospital Norwich program, which was just came online. So there's tons of room for development on the eastern part of the state.
Can I,
And yeah,
can you go back, 2 slides now? One more. Perfect. Thank
this
you.
one.
Ah,
There you go.
that's the one I'm looking for.
Sure.
All right, thank you. And it's time for questions?
It could be. I also have some other data if you'd
Oh,
want. I can
that's
just,
okay. Questions are good.
yeah, you want to ask questions?
Whatever's easiest for
Oh,
you.
yeah, I don't care. If there's questions you have now, we can knock them out, specific to the slides.
Sure.
Okay.
I have a question in
Sure.
that, um, if we look at each program, and you said there's 16 programs in Connecticut,
Right.
is there a way of teasing out each individual program's percentage of success?
Yes.
Ah,
Isn't that
perfect.
great?
I'm
So
looking for that.
one of the cool things about Project Search, I love numbers. I'm not good with numbers, but I love numbers. And the Project Search National really keeps pretty decent records. So the way it works is they have like a portal, which is like a hub website that each program accesses, and that's how they communicate with the national team. So they'll say this is the program. So let's say Middlesex Hospital Mark Community Resources, right? So it's just Mark Community Resources as a licensee is responsible for putting in the data. So like this year they'll say we have seven interns. Or I'll even say like last year they had seven interns. The year before they had seven interns. What they'll say is we have seven interns. They'll plug that in. They'll put the information in, and then they'll also have to put in how many graduated and how many found employment. So like with I'll pick on our community resources. So the first 2 years that they've been incorporated, 14 um, interns, 14 graduates, 13 have employment. So they're doing very well.
Yes, but their employment, like you said in the slides, so they're working at least 16 hours a week, each of
Yep.
those people.
Yes. That
Wow.
particular that particular program is pretty interesting. They're all interesting, but that particular program, they're very innovative. They've really incorporated some really sophisticated skills into their internships. Like they have, like I said, electronic health records. They have folks in radiology. They have folks in the lab. They have folks in a lot of really interesting opportunities. They also have two full-time, two of the interns have been hired full-time by Middlesex Hospital, and they derive their benefits entirely from their job. So one works 40 hours, the other one works, I think, 37.5. So some really good success stories there.
Yeah. I know, our daughter, Ellen, went through Project Search at,
Sure.
Hartford Hospital.
Hartford
Um,
Hospital. Yeah.
And I was looking for their percentage of success,
Sure.
just to get a feel. I have a friend who works at another site and she runs it. And she said they have about 80% success rate, which is wonderful. But I know that with us specifically, our daughter had a great experience in one of the internships. They loved her. They wanted to hire her. But they couldn't because the site didn't have the money to do that. Um, so we found it a little frustrating that our daughter gave up a job to come into Project Surge to have that experience and is now still working only 4 hours a week as
Yeah.
she was before.
Yeah. And I remember we've talked in the
Yeah,
past, and there is no expectation that the host business hire anyone.
right.
But that's
No,
one of
I
the
understand.
caveats. But we find that it's not uncommon that it happens. So,
Okay,
the theory is if you there isn't a pathway for employment with the host business, what should transpire is then there's continued follow up in terms of trying to find a job. In Connecticut, how that tends to look is maybe moving to ISC services, individual support services, while they continue to find that employment. That's kind of like that post
right,
graduation
right.
supports. Does it work out all the time? No. Does it work out a fair amount of the time? Yeah. There are a lot of the data backs that there's
All right.
a lot of success. Um,
But I could get from you the percentage of success, um, of the program for Hartford Hospital at some
yeah.
point.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I could pull
All right.
that up for it. Yeah. 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 Absolutely.
I'll contact you.
Sure. Fair enough.
Thank you.
I, I would say I'm trying to think offhand. I think it's not most of the programs are doing pretty well in terms of the
Okay.
outcomes. I don't think there's anyone that is like alarmingly not doing well, but I can get that information for you.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Um, the only thing that I could show, oh, I'll mention too, just because we haven't touched base in a while, just some of the updates that have been going on with Project Search. Um, Project Search in the spring actually won the inaugural award with, and I have to look this up. It's the Connecticut Business Industry Association, the CBIA, recognized Project Search with the inaugural Governor's Workforce Award, which really was about um, recognizing programs that connect folks with disabilities to industry sectors. So that was Project Search was very fortunate to be recognized at on that stage. So it's being noted, I think, a very the very high levels in terms of the success that it's had in terms of placing individuals into really good, really sustainable employment opportunities. So just wanted to throw that out there. And I think, is there a hand raised? And I just want to make sure I recognize Rick.
Uh, Brian, when people get employed, at the end, are most of them employed by the original host site, or is it a mix where,
It's definitely
say
a
some of
mix.
them?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mix. some
So they
programs.
learn their I'll call it a trade, whatever. They learn their job at whatever Hartford Hospital, and then they get hired somewhere else. So it's transferable. There's some transferable to it.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the strengths of the program is because a lot of other like transition programs or internships, they will do one thing for 9 months. With
Hmm.
Project Search, you get more breadth. You know, you
Yeah,
get more experience in different uh, areas, so that when you come out, you have a broader context. There's broader context in terms of what skill sets you have. Um, so that adds to employability for a lot of the individuals. I would say in terms of it's probably like 60-40 of individuals getting employed elsewhere to the host business. It's probably somewhere around there. So
that's pretty good.
yeah, there are some there are some host businesses that are just really seeing this as an opportunity to develop their workforce. I I, I have a gentleman at I keep picking on Middlesex Hospital, but one of the main directors over there, and he says this is fantastic. He was like, you hire somebody and you hope they're who you you think they are. He was like, I have a 9 month working interview. Basically, I get to know who these folks are. I get to develop and train them. I get to vet them. And what better way uh, to kind of build my workforce than having people who are already integrated into it? So there are host businesses that are just really seeing the value of the program, and they're really taking, I'll say, taking advantage of it. But they recognize the just the talent that's out there, and they're really they're really just taking as many as they can into their fold. So it's really interesting.
Thank
The
you.
only Sure, the other thing I'll mention, and I could drop this in the chat. I don't think we really need to go through it all the way, but just on DDS's um, the DDS side of things, we're really trying to make it more accessible and sustainable for these programs to stay afloat. So we went to great efforts over the past several months to develop a new funding rate for Project Search. We were funding it through like our employment transition services and our ISE, our individual support employment, like our services. And it was very complicated for to navigate. And it was in terms for both for the providers in terms of billing and for on the DDS side for like our resource managers and case managers to really make sure they're getting it correct. The other problem is the program for like a typical cost overall cost for tuition cost for the program it was somewhere between 36 to $40,000. Okay, so with depending on when we were based on our lawns, an individual's budget prorated over 9 months wasn't nearly any case it's not anywhere near that. So we were very reliant on one-time funding. What we there's actually a community of practice for Project Search. They generated feedback to TDS leadership requesting a standardized rate. So we were able to get that done. So there was a memo that went out in August just detailing the new funding. I could put that in the chat and people can, if you're interested in learning more about it, you can. I could certainly have an offline conversation, but it just gets a little technical in the weeds. Oh, but the long and short of it is that with the new rate for the length of the programs per individual, they'll be funded about $43,000. So that really is designed to make sure that these programs have the uh, the capital to make sure that they stay running. And we designed it in a way that Project Search National really requires and promotes that the program should at minimum have four interns. So it's based off of operational needs for our service providers, based off of a minimum of 4 interns. I don't know if I bored everyone, but it was exciting news for us. So, but the bottom line, all you need to know is that we've really streamlined the funding to make it easier for on the DDS side in terms of funding, and sustainable for our providers.
Thank you, Brian.
Sure.
Anyone
Thank you,
else
Brian.
have questions? Any other questions? Nope. All right, the next on our agenda are approval of the minutes from September 18th.
You need to nominate and just say,
Yeah.
I nominate approval of the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And Tammy is seconding. Thank you. Wonderful. Next is the, next would be the regional director's update.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is Stacy Silva, the Regional Director for the North Region. I wanted to do some introductions and then give a few updates for the region. Joe Carvalho couldn't make it this evening for us. He had a family emergency, but I just wanted to, let you know that he remember, he used to be the commissioner's executive assistant, and now he has returned to be a program manager to assist with the GTI transition. And he is the person to contact if the methods that we've put in place you're not seeing productivity, then he can assist with kind of moving things along. So he will be at our meeting tomorrow evening, I believe, on the DDS Council. So you can hear more tomorrow if you're with us tomorrow. If not, I can invite him to next month's meeting. Yes,
Could
Sue?
you repeat, what is GTI?
Oh, GTI is the FI for families that self-direct.
Okay.
That's how their staff get paid.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so the second introduction I wanted to do was Carrie, and I'll give the floor to Carrie so she could she's new to DDS, and she can explain her responsibilities and focus. Carrie?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Carrie Fellick. I'm the Director of Family Support Strategies. It's actually a perfect agenda to follow Brian and his work with EDS, because I will be working very closely with the EDS team, as well as assistive technology and supportive housing. So I'm responsible for a few different areas at the department. And I am also the central office liaison to self-determination. So in the future, I'll be working closely with Joe Carvalho and our SD directors, our self-determination directors. Prior to coming to this agency, I worked for the Department of Social Services for my entire state career under Medicaid administration. My background is in Medicaid home and community-based services, entitlements, waivers, and various services, including designing and developing new entitlements for people and helping stand up those programs for people to access services in the community. But I started with the Department of Developmental Services in September, so I'm just over 2 months with the agency, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Carrie.
I think the
Okay.
next, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about CFC. That's been a topic that keeps on coming up in the region. And so for those of you that are not familiar with CFC, it's Community First Choice. It's a DSS program through the state plan Medicaid, and it allows our individuals to access personal care attendance and other services through self-direction. And I've heard that some families have been receiving or getting a reduction in some of their hours. And DSS is supposed to provide a notice of action when support levels change. And so the notice is supposed to explain why the change is taking place. So if you have this notice and you have the right to appeal through DSS. And so that's what I want to tell you, because, you know, families are calling in a panic, but you should contact DSS first to appeal first. And Carrie?
Stacy, is it okay? I used to work on community first choice. Is it,
Okay.
and coming from Medicaid, so would it be helpful if I could give a little extra information?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay, you're happy to help. And I'm not speaking on behalf of the Department of Social Services anymore, but just having a lot of experience in that space. Anytime the department takes an action on an outcome or anything related to benefits that a person receives, including community first choice and a reduction of hours, people are entitled to an administrative fair hearing. You might hear it called from the department. And you should be receiving, or a person should be receiving, a notice of action saying what action was taken and why, and contact information to request an administrative fair hearing. The administrative fair hearing does have to go through a specific unit at the Department of Social Services. It's the acronym is OLCRA, Office of Legal Regulations and Administrative Hearings, I believe it is. And the request should go straight through to OLCRA. And depending on when you get that request in, sometimes benefits can be maintained pending the hearing outcome, but all of that should be described on the notice of action. It's called fair hearing rates. So you should, whenever you get something like that, you should also receive fair hearing rates and information on the fair hearing process. Sorry, Stacey. That was my life for a very long time.
No,
so
thank you. You're
Yeah.
it's very appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ken?
Yep. Ellen and I have been through the process. Her services were eliminated, and the reasoning was she needs IADL skills. And we were told at the hearing, which we did not continue because we hadn't gotten materials in time, but we were told that that should not even be part of CFC, that if you need those IADL skills, it no longer is part of CFC. I did a great deal of research and found that, yes, it is part of Community First Choice. And people who need those skills should still remain with Community First Choice. We had some legal counsel and we could have proceeded. We decided to let it go because we then have services now through DDS. But for families who may not have that, they need to understand that they are entitled to Community First Choice, even if it's entailing the IADL skills. Ellen? Can't hear you.
Oh, you're muted, Ellen.
Ellen, unmute. Oh, she's talking.
All right, hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Hold on 1 second. I'll be right back. Hold on.
Did you fix it?
Hold on.
Okay. Oh,
Oh, we lost her.
yes, we lost her.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Kim and
Yes.
Stacey, if you don't mind me just saying, whenever a person receives a notice of action, it should align with a regulation for the
Right.
program. And since CFC, Community First Choice, is a state plan entitlement. It has federal regulations aligned with it. And so you should also receive those numbers to see.
Receive, I'm sorry, the last part, receive.
On the notes of action, and it should include federal regulation, the regulation that aligns with the action.
It didn't. In fact, on our form that we received, the wrong item was checked. I was prepared for that one. And then when we got to the hearing, they said, oh, no, we did the wrong one. So we rescheduled, and
Okay.
have since moved on from that. So.
Yep.
Ellen, you have something to say?
I was very disappointed. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, I had to like log off, log back on. I'm sorry. I was very disappointed on what happened. Mom was very good, even though I had to sit next to her and be like, you're good, don't flip out, you know.
Okay, go ahead.
But anyway, so yeah, I was very disappointed, but we're all good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you
Hi,
for sharing
Brian.
that. Thank you for sharing that. And, definitely if you need any further assistance, please, feel free to, reach out also to your case manager, and, they can assist you on however you need.
Thank you.
So another thing I wanted to share with the committee is that DDS respite centers have their technology upgrades. I think that we have shared some dates that they're providing tours. And in the North region, the Windsor Family Respite Center on 265 Kennedy Road in Windsor on December 18th will be providing tours between the hours of 3 and 7. So one will occur on every hour. So 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So please feel free to access that tour if you would like to. And we'll resend that flyer out just as a reminder. Next Tuesday is the Tuesday Forum on December 3rd at 3 o'clock. And the theme of that forum is All Amazing Life Through STEP. So you'll hear stories from providers, individuals, and staff. So please, if you can log on to that, it should be a great forum. And all forums are recorded just in case you can't, sign on at 3 o'clock. It will be recorded and placed on our website, but it should be a very exciting forum. Elisa Villardo, our deputy commissioner, has worked really hard on, putting together all these forums, and they've all been pretty exciting, and they're all of them are on our website if you would like to look at them. I also wanted to share that CCRC in the North region, their supportive housing in New Britain is projected to open in March of 2025. This is a development they have partnered with Wind Development, and it will be on 321 Ellis Street. And it's walking distance from downtown, and there's bus transportation. And the location used to be a historic manufacturer building. So the brick exterior is still preserved, and they've done a remarkable job developing units there. So I will share when they will have an open house to see that development as well. The last thing I wanted to share was that we just had some recent hires in the region. We hired 2 administrative assistants for the assistant regional directors. As you know, Esther was promoted to the executive secretary, so her position was open all this time. Esther's been kind of doing double and triple duty. I appreciate her so much. She's just been, wonderful to work with, but we have to give her some relief. So the administrative assistant that will be working for the private division is Lana Raymond. And then the administrative assistant that will be working for the individual and family ARD is Sarah Abelli, and she'll be working for Karen Sticklin. and Lana Raymond works for Dawn Fry. So we have 2 administrative assistants, thank goodness. So Ether has some relief. We also hired a new case manager supervisor, Kelly Anderson, and she comes from the South region with 17 years experience as a case manager. And this is going to help me decrease the current caseloads under the case manager supervisors now. They've been, supervising about 10 to 12 case managers each, who all have, a lot of cases to manage. And now I'll be able to make that a smaller number to, assist case managers, supervisors to, provide more oversight to their staff. So that's great news, and we're really excited about that. Any questions?
Generally speaking, or of what you just said?
For what I just said, and then, Kim will probably
Yes.
let you know when it's open floor.
Yep. All right. Okay, so we're
Rick?
moving on
Rick?
to there are questions. Yes, Rick.
Oh, you're on mute, Rick.
Congratulations on the hirings, which leads to my question. The Connecticut Mirror this past week posted an article by Keith Vanek, who probably knows more about the state budget than the OPM does. And he said that there's a it seems like a soft hiring freeze, and that departments are being asked to curtail expenditures. And I was wondering how that was going to affect the internal DDS operations in the region. You may have gotten ahead of it, so.
Yes, I hope I did get ahead of it. I mean, the administrative assistants were very important roles to hire. So, I must say that the North region were looking pretty good as far as vacancies. I think, yes, I made the cut, I believe.
Good, well done.
Hey. Oh. All right, I think we're moving on to the open forum.
There you go.
And Shannon.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I don't know that this is the right place to ask this question or voice this. As you all know, I've been coming to this meeting for a while and going to the Tuesday meetings when I'm not there. I've been listening to all the stuff that's recorded online. So thanks for all of that for when we can't make it, that we can hear about these programs. So I am trying to learn more about the residential process. Like I hear all of these great, occupational programs and vocational and so my understanding is that I can't really start talking to any of these programs. I get lists and lists and lists from people. I can't start talking to the programs until I have a case manager, but I won't be assigned a case manager until just before my son graduates out of the system the June after his 22nd birthday. So I hear about all these great programs. I can't really do anything with any of it or start getting him signed up or find out if it's a good fit for him, et cetera, et cetera. But my biggest question is, where does he live in June 2026 when he graduates out of the system? I have been in touch with my transition coordinator for the West Hartford Public School District. I think I'm doing all the right things. I do have a letter from the RAC committee so far, given his situation. But I still feel like I don't have any clarity or direction about next best steps to move forward for where is he going to live in June 2026. So parental input, any further direction would be appreciated. That's our biggest question of the moment.
Shannon, that's a great question. It happens differently for, there's different tracks, right? Your son graduates and then you're assigned a case manager, and the case manager assists you in exploring existing vacancies to see if there's any matches in programs. So I don't know your son, so I can't talk specific, which, if you're looking for supportive housing or continuous residential placement or a CLA. So I can't talk in particular in that respects, but you would work with your case manager and in exploring options. And if, like, for example, I think I had shared last month that we were doing an RFP, a request for proposals for kids right now that are in residential schools that are aging out. So that's one other way that, new development happens, is for a request for proposals if there's something that doesn't exist that's appropriate. But you can, definitely give me a call and we could talk specifics in what you're thinking for your son for future placement. And I could give you more details on, how to plan for that.
Great. I will definitely reach out, because it's that interim period in between, like he graduates, then I get a case manager, and then I start exploring. So what happens in that 3, 6, 9 month where is he living and what's he doing during that time? So I would assume that I want to start doing some of that prior to his graduation, so that there's as little of this gap time as possible for him. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
I wish there
I'll
was
reach out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks.
Sue?
Okay, so I'm going to jump in and say, I know that there's over 100 beds right now that are currently not occupied, but they're with agencies that cannot manage higher level of need people. We know that. We know that you saying that, like last year, or last time, there was a mention that you guys were going to start an RFP to try to come up with more housing options for these higher lawns that are going to be graduating. We have spent over an hour talking about all these higher functioning people. We have not talked about the housing crisis for higher level of needs kids, right? We've got not enough staff. We've got not enough training. We've got agencies who are lovely, who don't have the support that they need. So I guess my request is that somehow we start spending more time talking about the housing crisis for our higher level of needs people. And I appreciate all the other things that you guys do, but it just seems like we're always talking about them. We're always talking about people who can handle things and can lead a better life if they have a little bit. But we don't talk about this huge gap in services and this huge cliff that we are running towards, where we do not have safe housing for our higher needs people.
So I understand your frustration. We've worked a lot, you and I, in the past with, requests for proposals and taking a look at these, this particular topic. I can tell you that the agency, we're continuing to, partner and try to collaborate with providers to see how we can change this, this challenging situation. So we're not forgetting about the challenging individuals. It's definitely an ongoing conversation, and I can work more towards bringing that to our committee here, and bringing folks that can speak to that. And probably tomorrow the commissioner also, deputy commissioner, will be there, and we can hear their thoughts on that as well. But it is a concern.
Ask them, I'm so sorry, Stacy. If you could ask them, what is their plan? What is their vision? What is their pathway? Because saying that they're throwing up RFPs is not getting us anywhere. And in the meantime, you know, my son, you know, my son, just, you know, but there are other sons as well.
Absolutely. I
Can
think
I
they've,
step in one second,
sure,
Stacy?
Ellen.
I, as you know, I live at home. I'm still looking for a house, a place. And it's fantastic that, like you said, it's fantastic that we're talking about something else, like stuff, like all that stuff. But we need to, even my mom can, even Kim, my mom obviously can like back me up on this, but we need to get people that are still on the waiting list off the waiting list. I'm still on the waiting list. I'm 33 years old. I'm still on the waiting list. And I mean, I need to get I need to get a house, but like I understand where you're coming from. But it's frustrating for me and it's frustrating for my parents. But you know, I have like I have a staff person that comes in and helps me out. So, you know, but anyway, if that helps, I don't know.
And Ellen,
I should have said sons and daughters, Ellen. You're absolutely right.
absolutely.
Right.
Ellen, thank you for sharing and thank you for being transparent. And you can definitely also give me a call. I would love to, you know, sit and on your team meetings and discuss that and hear what your specific goals are to help you work
Yeah.
towards those goals. I would love to hear more and we could do that offline.
Okay. I don't know when the meetings are for us, but talk to mom. I don't know.
Well,
We
you know,
just
you
had
just,
one.
oh, okay. Well, you could definitely call me and I can call your case manager if you give me permission to, you know, talk in details of what was discussed and what are your future plans and see how I can help.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tammy?
I want to kind of piggyback on what Sue was saying. She was talking about the housing, and I'd also like Project Search is a wonderful program. And what kind of programs can we talk about or can be developed or are there already there for those higher lawn individuals as well? My son is doing something, but it's very minimal. We're fortunate. Our daughter is with self-direction, and we've managed to put together a great program for her, but I'm terrified of when I can't do that anymore. And my son really has more abilities, and there's just, you hear all these programs for the other individuals who need all those programs. I'm not saying they don't need the programs and they're not wonderful programs, but where's there something for the others? There's, it's not like there's only 4 or 5 people at Higher Lawns. There are a lot of people at those, and they deserve more than just being a couch potato. And I'm trying to think of these things myself and suggest it and do that, but you guys are the ones that are in charge of the programming. And I'm just at a loss. And I saw my son in school. He was in a residential school, so he really had a phenomenal program there, and he was able to do so many things. And now a big part of it, of course, is the short staff and the minimal pay that they get. So you can't hire people that you can't give money to because they're going to want to go to flip burgers at McDonald's probably for more money. And I understand that completely, but I just hope that you guys can think about that and maybe present something and come up with something, because it is so hard to hear about everything that's wonderful, but why don't the people with the lawn numbers listen to a little bit about what isn't appropriate for their kids and have something there too. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy, for your comments.
Thanks,
Rick?
Tammy.
I will second or third the comments of these two ladies who are very active. There are more individuals with lines 5 through 8 in the DDS system than there are with lines below 5. And I agree, we did need some focus on new models such as the supportive housing and project search, things like that. Project search would sound great if my son was 21 again, but he's not. I'm not sure he could have done it, but it would have been worth a shot. But we have the physical issues. You know, we need locations, but without staff, we don't have it. I said this last year at the legislature. Without staff, we don't have anything. And we're one step away from losing the system that we built over the last 50 years. So.
In response to that, and because a number of you have mentioned staffing resource issues, we have Mary Pat DiCarlo, who I would like to invite to our next meeting, and she has been working on this issue collaborating with a lot of agencies about that. So I will invite her to our next meeting so that you can hear the work that she has been doing in this area. I think that would be beneficial to this group.
We would like to know how we're going to better, if we can hire a better quality of person, that's going to require money. But if we could hire a better quality person, then we won't have circumstances where somebody gets assaulted again. Because we have to acknowledge that if there was a higher quality of pool, then the bottom wouldn't have to get scraped.
Kim?
I guess I would love people to give us suggestions on who to bring in. Stacy and I have asked. And so when we don't hear anything, we bring in what we know. And I apologize if I'm leaving you out. I certainly did not mean to do that in any way. So please make sure that either Stacy or myself know what you want here. We'll have it, whatever you need.
Can we bring in the program that we're working with, Mom, or no?
I don't know, maybe.
Okay. What was
Rick?
that again? I forgot.
Rick.
I will just say one more thing on this topic, and that is there is a tsunami coming. And the tsunami is individuals with intellectual disability that is profound and behavioral issues with autism. And we don't have a staff that's ready for that. We don't have a system that's ready for that. And there are national statistics from as close as New Jersey that have been peer reviewed and so forth. And I realize this is not a regional issue only, but this is where we are, and we need to be ready. And I know someone on the council who has done a presentation on this, and maybe we could invite her, but it doesn't have any solutions. It just describes the problem. She's working on her own solution for her son, but still is going through the pipeline, so to speak.
Thank you for your comments.
Are there any other issues for the open forum? Okay, we will definitely take your comments to heart. Thank you.
Oh, Rick has one.
Oh, sorry.
I do
Rick.
have one more comment. My son has gone through a lot of changes over the years, and starting on August 30th, he went into kidney failure again and is on dialysis. It's not likely he's going to get another transplant in Connecticut. He's been rejected. So we're looking at other places, which would be very, very difficult, if not impossible. So, and I appreciate what our agency, HARC, and our case manager and DDS has come through for him. And it's wonderful. But since March 17th, 2022, I have been living a nightmare. And the nightmare is in the course of 19 months, we had a very serious abuse case and a very serious neglect case. And both of which wound up with extensive stays in the hospital and in intensive care. And his staffing has been adjusted for that. But there are, including the case that was in the paper last week, very serious abuse and neglect cases. When I was on the council in 2022, I helped work on a package of adjustments to the abuse and neglect system that was soundly rejected by the commissioner. There were 6 council members working on it. 5 of them were families, 1 of them was a provider. And we came up with tweaks to the system that would help increase transparency, ideas for increasing the speed of resolution. And we did not have a single legislative change in it that we were proposing. We felt that this could all be done administratively, and we never really got a hearing. And over the last 2.5 years, I can't even count how many families I've talked to. And it's not like I put a post on Facebook and say, please call me and tell me about your story. It's just through informal networks learned about many, many cases. And this really can't go on. And in 2013, we had a series by the Hartford Current, which led to the 2016 audit by the Department of Health and Human Services, which resulted in a report that prescribed changes. There really weren't a whole lot of changes. There are some backroom changes, but those were for critical incidents and critical incidents that were ruled after the fact to be abuse and neglect. Since they weren't reported, that was a problem. Last year, the child advocate got involved in a case from 2021 that was, I believe, a minor. But as a result of that, she looked at, I believe it was 150 group homes. And she came up with a detailed report that has specific recommendations. And near as I can tell from looking at the 2024 legislative session, her ideas were not brought up. And so no changes have occurred. 2 weeks ago, there was the audit by the auditors of public accounts that quantified the delays in both the completion of investigative reports and in also the mortality review board. The reason why those things are done is to help identify future issues, but perhaps for that individual, or perhaps on a mortality review case, it may indicate a systematic problem, either at an agency or throughout the whole system. Something needs to be done, and I would say the changes that we proposed in 2023, because we worked on the project for almost a year, it needs to be looked at again, along with the child advocate who has since retired and gone back to private practice. I shudder at the thought that someone else could go through what my son went through, or the individual in the paper this past week. I happen to know that individual and their guardian, and the guardian is still shell shocked. So, anyway,
Rick,
so that's my piece.
Rick, this is Stacy Silva. When you were on that work group, was Kendris Lally part of that work group as well?
Yes, we worked with a variety of department heads. We met with legal, we met with Kendris. We came up with and Shannon Jacobino was part of the group.
Okay.
And we were very disappointed. And there never was a presentation while I was there, because I left last January. I was replaced by a young lady from some new blood from out in Western Connecticut, who was wonderful, who I would have picked if I could have picked them. So I'm not disappointed in that. And we do need fresh faces on the council with new energy. So, I really was hesitating whether I should bring it up today or, but I'm not on the council anymore, and it isn't clear on tomorrow's agenda whether anyone other than the regional directors are going to be speaking from the RACs. History tells me that for the last 8 to 10 years, that the regional directors have presented, then the chairs have presented, and then it was open up for questions and discussion. But from the way the agenda is structured this year, it doesn't seem to be set up that way.
Right. I appreciate your comments, Rick. I can share with the group that a week or two ago, I worked with Kendris Lally in participating in interviews for hiring an assistant director of investigations. So I definitely want to share your comments with
Okay.
Kendris. Excuse me?
Well, anytime I'm around, things have quieted down a bit, even though Spencer's in failure. I had some things going on with the rest of my family. So I guess you could say I'm back and getting ready for the session, whatever. We don't know what's going to happen yet, but obviously there's going to be a continued emphasis on funding for improved wages and benefits. And I think the rest is yet to be decided. And there is this problem in, one other event that I didn't mention was in 2016, the Department of Protection and Advocacy, which used to do the investigations, or at least some of the investigations, was supposed to move to BRS. Didn't make any sense, but that's where it was supposed to go. And between the time that legislation was passed and 2017, when it was going to be implemented, Commissioner Chef lobbied for and got a change so that the investigators were brought into DDS. So they say, in some respects, a fox watching the henhouse. It's like auditing yourself. And I didn't find that in the reviews I had, but we don't have that independent party anymore.
I definitely will share your comments with Kendris.
Yeah, well, I mean, she's aware that I participated in that, and be glad to meet or talk with you guys and go from there. So,
okay.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no other questions.
Thank you, Rick.
We could move on to adjournment. Nope. All right.
I can move or you can adjourn.
Oh, Rick? Oh, Rick?
No, I was trying to lower my hand.
Oh. All right. Well,
I think it's supposed to go down by itself, but
I just like to say, thank you for your participation and thank you for all your comments. Please, I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. I will see some of you on the call tomorrow evening. And please feel free to call me with any more concerns or questions before our next meeting. I have an open door policy and I welcome any comments, any suggestions, and would love to, talk to you about the specific issues that some of you have brought up this evening. And you know how to reach me, and, look out for more information from Ether. I will have her send some of the dates that we talked about this evening so you can have them.
Thank
Okay.
you.
And Carrie, welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
And a special thanks to Ether for all your double time over the last couple of months. Thank you for all your work and communication. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ether. Okay. Take care, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice
Good
meeting
night.
you.